The poor, foolish, misguided materialists don't know anything except sense gratification. That's all there is in their life. They always need something for the eyes, something pleasant to hear, some music for the ears, something to titillate their tongue. A recent phenomenon is that probably hundreds and millions of people all over the world start their day, they wake up and they grope for their phone to look to see if there's anything interesting to titillate the mind at the beginning of their humdrum day. Spiritualists know that the path to hell is via sense gratification. This animalistic propensity to always want the senses and thus the mind to get an adrenaline boost. Trividham narakasya dwaram nashanam atmanaha kamas krodhas tata lobhas tasmat etat trayang tyajet. Lord Krishna teaches us in the Bhagavad Gita that there are 3 paths to hell. The first is karma, sensual desire. And then there's anger and greed. The first is sensual desire. Therefore, people who are on a genuine spiritual quest, they can understand that this tendency to indulge the senses in such a way that it simply fascinates the mind or gives some tiny little pleasure to the mind, this has to be overcome. And for this purpose, particularly here in the land that is now called India, since time immemorial, transcendentalists have renounced the world, undergone severe austerities, and you'll find in any genuine religious tradition throughout the world that those who are really serious about what they're doing, about overcoming the pull of the flesh, they undertake austerities or vows to overcome this tendency. It's like iron filings being drawn toward a magnet. You see something, you want to see it. You hear something, you want to hear it. Some smell of some nice food, you want to taste it. To overcome the lower self by the higher self is required in spiritual life. In Srimad Bhagavatam, we find so many accounts of great personalities, dozens of them are mentioned, who renounced the world, undertook austerities for the sake of overcoming this tendency to want to indulge in sense gratification. Severe austerities in many cases, huge long periods of really subjecting the body to great difficulties. Fortunately, in our present Krishna consciousness movement, it's definitely a bona fide spiritual endeavor, but by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and especially by the mercy of his representative, Srila Prabhupada, we're not required to undergo severe austerities. But there definitely giving up sense gratification is required. Minimally, we should not indulge in meat, fish, eggs, garlic, onions, mushrooms, chocolate, tea, coffee, cigarettes, all kinds of intoxication, no illicit sex, no gambling, all these things, minimally. But even this minor restriction, giving up tea or coffee, some people think, oh, it's just too much. They like our movement, they like to come to the temples, but the idea of giving up tea or coffee is just too much for them. They find it too hard to even contemplate it. They wonder, how can we do it? Well, how can we do it? How do we overcome this tendency for sense gratification? That Lord Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna speaks a lot about giving up sense gratification. But he qualifies that by saying that it's not just a matter of giving up sense gratification, but by coming to a higher platform of pleasure. He says, Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha rasavajang rasopyasya parang drishtva nivartate. He says that we can try to subdue by force that tendency, just to try to ram it under. But that won't be effective in the long term. I'm paraphrasing what Krishna says, or unpacking it. Krishna says that we have to have a higher taste, a higher spiritual taste. And then we can overcome this lower taste of trying to enjoy, because we're naturally happy, we naturally like to enjoy. But Krishna says we have to come to the highest platform, the spiritual platform, come to a higher platform of pleasure, the pure platform of pleasure. We can start our day and go through every day on the platform of spiritual sense gratification. What does that mean? Well, very practically, we can start every day with sense gratification at Mangalarati, the first formal service of the day in the Krishna conscious movement, in the temples and in the homes of devotees who are seriously practicing Krishna consciousness. And the senses are beautifully engaged. Krishna consciousness is beautiful. Krishna is all beautiful. So in Mangalarti, we all assemble together early in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, and with our eyes we see the beautiful forms of Radha and Krishna, Gaunitai. We see the devotees so happily worshipping the Lord by chanting His holy names. With our ears we hear those beautiful names of Krishna. We smell the incense offered to Krishna, the flowers offered to Krishna. Our body is fully engaged. The mouth is chanting the holy names. We sway back and forward in time to the chant, and as it gets more lively, we may start to dance. Also, with our mind, we meditate on the prayers to the Guru. First of all, the Srila Prabhupada's pranam mantra. We meditate on how merciful Srila Prabhupada is. We meditate on the personalities who accompany Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his pastimes, and then into the Mahamantra. Perfect meditation to start the day. We can also meditate on how fortunate we are to be there. Perfect way to start the day. Of course, we can rise a little early also and chant some rounds of the Hare Krishna mantra before Mangalarti, but this is the best way to engage the senses. The senses are fully satisfied from the very beginning of the day, starting the day with sense gratification, but it's not, we don't actually call it sense gratification because the center is not our senses. The whole idea is to please Krishna's senses. Sarvo padhi vinirmuktam tat paratvena nirmalam hrishikena hrishikesha sevanam bhakti ruchyate. Bhakti, this word, has become quite well known. Devotion specifically should be devotion to Krishna, who is the master of the senses. Our senses are meant to be engaged in his service. So when we give up, I'm explaining the meaning of this verse, when we give up all kinds of mundane designations and thinking that I am the enjoyer of this body with these senses, but instead absorb ourselves in Krishna and serving Krishna, the master of the senses, with our senses, that is called bhakti, devotion. Yaha yasya haryadasya karmana manasagira nikhilas vapyavastasu jivan mukta sa uchyate. Just as sense gratification on the mundane level binds us into material existence, if we engage all our activities, our mind, our words in serving Krishna, in a spirit of service, serving not just like someone works in a company to get some money, but just out of a spirit of trying to serve Krishna and loving Krishna, then we are jivan mukta sa uchyate. We are known to be liberated from material existence, even while engaging our senses within this material world, because we engage it in this service of Krishna. Krishnarte akila cheshta. This is the summary. All our endeavors should be for Krishna's sake. And the great example of that, of course, every pure devotee is a great example of that, but often cited is the example of Ambarish Maharaj, who first of all placed his mind in Krishna, in the lotus feet of Krishna. He spoke about Krishna. He went to the temple of Krishna. He cleaned the floor of Krishna. He embraced the devotees of Krishna. With his legs he went to the temple. With his hands he did various services like cleaning the temple of Krishna. And in always all his activities, all his senses were engaged in Krishna. So this is a very good proposition. Start each day with sense gratification. Spiritual sense gratification. It's been for me a mainstay of my petty life. Every day go to Mangalati, and then the whole day becomes Mangal. Mangal means auspicious. Good idea? Do it. Srila Prabhupada kindly gave us such a process. We can start every day with auspiciousness, completely satisfied, and go on the whole day serving Krishna. All glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya vacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavi